When it comes to high-performance compact sports sedans, every manufacturer tends to benchmark the BMW M3. Now, back in 2017, Alfa Romeo introduced what could possibly be the automotive equivalent of a middle finger to the M3 when the all-new Giulia Quadrifoglio was introduced. Now, for 2024, the Giulia sports sedan is getting its first round of updates in the form of some new styling on the outside and some new tech on the inside. And today, we're actually out here at M1 Concourse, just outside of Detroit, Michigan, to drive the new Giulia Quadrifoglio. So if you guys have been on the market for a sports sedan, but you want something a little bit spicier than the usual German rivals, how does the revised 2024 Giulia stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, it's kind of crazy to think that it's been around 7 years since I first had a chance to get behind the wheel of the all-new Giulia. And I have to say, the Quadrifoglio version is probably one of my favorite sports sedans that I ever drove back in 2017. So, as you guys know, this is just a mild refresh. So before we start talking about the exterior styling changes, let me remind you guys what's underneath the hood. Now, this is where the magic happens if you guys are looking for a Giulia. Now, this is essentially the powertrain that enthusiasts are going to lust after for years, because this is a Ferrari-derived 2.9-liter twin turbocharged 90-degree double overhead cam V6. It's essentially the same powertrain that's in the California T's V8, which, as you guys know, that vehicle's been discontinued. But it's the V8 with 2 cylinders lopped off, and Ferrari essentially developed this engine exclusively for Alfa Romeo. It still makes the same 505 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. This engine has 2 turbochargers that are literally pumping in up to 35 PSI of boost pressure. That's one of the highest that I've seen in the industry. And it's connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission built by ZF. There was a time where Alfa did offer a manual in other markets, but it never came to the US due to the extremely low take rate. Unlike the Stelvio QV, the Giulia only comes standard with rear-wheel drive. However, for 2024, they have added a new mechanical limited slip rear differential. Before, it had an electronic torque vectoring system. Now it actually has that mechanical limited slip rear to help put the power down. Fuel economy, in case you guys care, is rated at 17 in the city, 25 on the highway. Alfa says with this powertrain combination, you should do 0 to 60 in around 3.8 seconds. It'll have a top speed of around 191 miles an hour. So again, remember, this is Alfa's answer to the BMW M3, which technically, this still has more horsepower than the current generation M3, which is currently known as the Speed King. In terms of the curb weight, this model here weighs in at around 3,800 pounds. Remember, if you guys don't need this much performance, the base version offers around 280 horsepower. But if you're an enthusiast and you guys, again, want to buck the trend of going electric, this engine here should be at the very top of your list. Now, the hood, as you guys can see, is fully carbon fiber, which helps, again, reduce the weight. As I close the hood, you can see the styling for this vehicle certainly is very attractive. Now, Alfa did make some small changes to the front fascia. Really, it's just in the headlights. You can see you have their new full LED headlights. These are their new tri-lobo design with the LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals. The previous generation, the pre-refresh, had a bi-xenon headlight, which kind of showed the age of the vehicle. You have the usual Alfa grille there, where it has that triangular shield. This model here has the exposed carbon fiber for an extra 2,500 bucks. And then this color is called Verde Montreal. It's, again, a very beautiful bright green. It's $2,200 extra, but it's worth every penny. I would totally go for this color if I was gonna buy this vehicle. You can also tell this is a Quadrifoglio from the exposed hood vents here. This actually, again, is heat extractor vents that allow the hot air from the engine to kind of get outside to help cool the vehicle down. It looks fantastic, especially with the low and wide proportions of the Giulia. Remember, this car is built off of the Giorgio platform, which is starting to get old, but it's still one of the best handling and best chassis you're gonna find in the sports sedan segment. Now, looking at the side profile of this vehicle, this is a compact sports sedan. It's technically Alfa's only sports sedan, or only sedan, but it has a 111-inch long wheelbase. It has an overall length of around 182.5. Comparing it to something like the M3 or an Audi RS5 Sportback, this car is smaller than some of its competitors by about 3 to 5 inches in the overall length. The wheels, as you can see, these are the 5-hole traditional looking wheels that Alfa tends to have. You can see they're kind of a graphite gray finish. The Quadrifoglio has upgraded brakes with the slotted rotors, the upgraded calipers as well with the high friction pads. And then of course you have staggered wheels. So you have a 245/35 R19-inch in the front, and then you have a fatter 285 in the rear. So remember, this is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Alfa does not offer all-wheel drive on the Giulia Quadrifoglio. You can get all-wheel drive if you guys step down to the base 2-liter engine. Now, you can also tell this is a Quadrifoglio from this little badge here. As you guys know, The 4-leaf clover badge is to show that they have the high performance version, or that you have the high performance version. There's a functional vent over here as well. The mirrors are black painted, although I'm surprised they're not carbon fiber, considering this has the exposed carbon fiber package. You can see all the window trim here is also blacked out. The roof is also exposed carbon fiber. That's part of a $2,500 upcharge. Alfa does not offer a sunroof on the Giulia Quadrifoglio. If you guys want a sunroof on a Quadrifoglio, you have to go to the Stelvio, the SUV, which kind of makes sense. Looking at this portion here, you can see it's a very traditional boxy sedan shape, which I really love. And then looking at the rear, you can see the Quadrifoglio also gives you this really tasteful carbon fiber rear lip spoiler, which actually the carbon fiber aspect is part of that exposed carbon fiber package. The taillights have also been updated, where you have this kind of darker smoke finish to the full LEDs. I would prefer to see the badges also blacked out, which would definitely help it look a little bit more complete, in my opinion. The rear diffuser is also much more aggressive on the Quadrifoglio. And then you have the signature stacked quad outlet exhaust, which the exhaust system in this car, it just sounds so badass. So I'll shut up, you guys can hear what it sounds like real quick. Now, in order for it to sound like a Ferrari or a race car, you do need to switch it over to race mode, where it essentially opens up the baffles. But again, this car's been on the market for a few years, but it still has one of the sweetest sounding engines you're gonna hear in this segment. And thank God for our Alfa for putting that Ferrari derived engine in this vehicle. Now, looking at the trunk capacity, this is where the Giulia does have a smaller trunk compared to its competitors, although, to be honest, it's actually still really usable at 13.5 cubic feet. It's technically bigger versus something like the BMW M3. You can see the seats do fold down in like a 40-20-40 manner, which is nice. It's also nicely carpeted. And then underneath here, you can see no spare tire. You just have a fix-a-flat kit and a couple of tools. No underfloor storage, but overall, if you guys need more space, obviously, the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, the SUV version of this, is going to give you that additional storage space. So on the outside, the 2024 Giulia isn't all that different from the pre-refresh model, and that trend kind of continues when you look at the interior. As I get inside this interior, it has that low sports sedan step-in height, and then when I shut the door actually has a relatively solid sounding thunk. It sounds a little bit better versus the Stelvio that I actually just hopped out of. Let me show you guys the key fob. You can see Alfa technically has a different key versus other Stellantis models. It's a big key, but you have your usual unlock, lock. You can also pop the trunk, activate remote start, and panic. The company does not offer a phone as a key option. It kind of shows you the age of the vehicle. And then unlike some other brands where they put the start stop button here, Alfa puts it right here on the steering wheel. It's red because when you go for the Quadrifoglio model, it tries to show you that this is the sportier version. When I push the button, you can hear the engine actually almost sounds a little ordinary. There's a little bit of that burble from the exhaust, but it really doesn't wake up until you switch the drive mode selector here into race. And when you put it into race, you can see the tachometer shows front and center, and then this is where it basically is straight piped. It's a wonderful sound, and it just kind of adds to the drama of this vehicle. So I'm gonna really miss this because Alfa is going fully electric by the year 2025. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, you can see it's pretty similar to the pre-refreshed model. The infotainment system here hasn't changed. It's still 8.8 inches. You can see my phone is connected via Apple CarPlay. However, it is not a wireless connection, it's a wired connection CarPlay, and this is not using the new Uconnect 5 system that we've seen in the Tonale. So I was really sad to see Alfa didn't upgrade that. They say that the software wasn't able to be upgraded because it required some hardware changes that they're gonna have to wait for a next generation. You can see the rest of the dash has this beautiful real leather stitching with contrast stitching on the upper portion here. It's padded over here, which is nice. I love this kind of carbon fiber. This is genuine exposed weave carbon fiber, which looks fantastic with the rest of the interior here. The big change, of course, is going to be right here in the instrument panel. This is a fully digital 12.3-inch display. You can actually change the way this looks as well. You can go to like kind of a more modern design or a simplistic design, or this kind of retro modern look with the script there, which kind of reminds you from old Alfa Romeos from the 60s or 70s. The door panel material you can see has the same soft touch leather with the exposed carbon fiber. You have some aluminum accented door handles. You have a Harman Kardon stereo for those of you who are audiophiles in case you get bored of listening to the engine. It's padded over here, and then the window controls are one touch up for the front and for the rear, so it's one touch for all four, which is nice. The steering wheel on the Quadrifoglio is also unique. You can see you have the Alcantara. It's a slightly thicker wheel, which I love. It's got a flat bottom design. You have the carbon fiber here with the 4-leaf clover badge. The steering wheel itself allows for manual tilt telescoping. Alfa doesn't offer a full power adjustment. They also don't offer a heads-up display, which would have been nice. And then you can see here, these paddle shifters are very Ferrari-like. So they're mounted directly to the column. They're huge. They kind of get in the way, honestly, if you're trying to reach for the turn signal or the windshield wiper stalks. But I love that they're actually really easy to find, and they feel meaty and they feel like purposeful. So for those of you who want to take manual control, that's great to have. The center console here, you can see you have your cup holders here, you have another USB-A charging port, and then this shifter here controls the 8-speed auto. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you get a really awful backup camera. You can see the resolution is really grainy. It's very small, so I would have liked to see Alfa at least upgrade that, but sadly they did not. The shifter here is pretty similar to BMW's older shifters, where you have to kind of pull a trigger here to go to back, and then you can go to a manual mode here, push the P button here to go into park. You can see it'll force itself over to the right. You have an electronic parking brake here, and then more of that beautiful exposed carbon fiber here. Your drive mode selector is here. It's got the DNA mode with the adaptive dampers, and then you can also switch it to a race where you have to completely turn it clockwise until it switches over to race, and then it changes the way the instrument panel looks. So again, really nice touches over there. Padded center console here, and if you open this up, you can see your wireless phone charging pad is here, and then it looks like Alfa added a new USB-C and USB-A over here, where this is where you connect your phone if you actually want to hook up to the smartphone connection. The seats, I hope you guys like a black interior, because the Quadrifoglio only offers a black interior with the contrasting stitching. It also has a manual adjustable thigh extender. These are a 12-way power seats, a 3-way memory on the driver's side. However, it only offers 3-way heated seats and heated steering wheel. You cannot get ventilated seats in the Giulia or the Stelvio, which is annoying. I wish Alfa would have thrown in some cooled seats. It already has the perforation for cooled seats. They offer cooled seats on the Tonale, but not, of course, on the Giulia, which is frustrating. The seats definitely are very aggressively bolstered. These are sports seats unique to the Quadrifoglio. So if you guys are a wider frame, you might find the seats to be constricting, but they're going to hold you in place when you're doing some high-performance driving, which is nice. The glove compartment, you can see, is a bin style, or I'm sorry, it's not a bin style, it kind of goes into the dash, but it's damped and it's lined with felt. It's actually a pretty decent size, which is nice. Overall, visibility is good. The interior does feel a little bit cozy. Some competitors offer a little bit more in terms of having an open and airy feel. There is some LED map lighting in here, no ambient lighting, and then you can see here, no sunroof available on the Quadrifoglio Giulia, but it does increase the headroom, so overall the interior is still a nice place to spend time, but that right there is still kind of the sour point of the Giulia. Now, the Giulia is a 4-door sports sedan, so if you need to use the back seat for actually carrying passengers, this is where the Giulia does show its weaknesses compared to the competition. This vehicle only offers around 35 inches of legroom, which is definitely not a lot. For somebody my height, this is where I'd have the vehicle to drive. You can see there is some okay leg room for me. There's also good foot space. The hump here is massive, as you can see. If you plan to put a middle passenger here, they literally have no leg space. You have to share the leg space on each side. But at 35 inches of leg room, it's acceptable for somebody my height. The headroom space here is also pretty good. Materials back here are also decent. You have soft touch materials here where there's leather, carbon fiber, aluminum accents here. The air vents are also nice that they included that. You have 2 USB charging ports. You have 3-level heated seats, which is nice. You have 2 storage cubbies. And then unlike the earlier renditions of the Giulia QV, Alfa did add an armrest here that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. The seats, like I said earlier, they do fold down. So overall, if you need to use this as a family vehicle, it's going to be tight, but it's certainly possible. But you also find more space in something like the BMW M3. So for the driving portion of this Giulia QV, we're going to do things a little differently. I'm actually not going to be able to take this out on the public road today. I'm hoping I'll be able to have one for a full week to drive at some point back in my home area in PA. But Alfa, of course, has this set up here at M1 Concourse, and I've actually never had a chance to drive the Giulia Quadrifoglio out on a track. This is the whole reason why you buy a Quadrifoglio. Quadrifoglio is because you want to go track driving. I'm going to leave the car in dynamic mode most of the times, and I'm going to try to take it easy a little bit, but this is a very technical course. It's kind of like an overgrown golf or go-kart track, but let's just go ahead and see how this vehicle does. It is, again, one of the best driving sports sedans that money can buy. Now, we are on Corsa tires, so it's pretty cold outside, so we're going to just kind of take it easy during our first go at it. But I have to say, this car's steering is one of the best steering you're going to find in the class. It still gives you so much feel, and the car itself just feels so sturdy, it's so rigid. The turn-in is just incredibly sharp. Remember, this car is also all-wheel, it's rear-wheel drive, but now it has that mechanical limited slip diff. Oh, the sound of that engine is just my favorite. I love the farts and the crackles and that 8-speed ZF. Now this is a really sharp turn here, so put our foot down. There's a little bit of understeer I'm feeling there, but put our foot down again. The pops and the farts every time it shifts is just my favorite. And the brakes, this car also has upgraded brakes compared to the standard Giulia, and you really feel that out, especially out here on the track. This is just a really sublime sports sedan. The suspension stays nice and firm. It's amazing how this car's like getting up there in the age, but it still feels incredibly rigid. It feels so planted. It feels like it can keep pace with, of course, the latest from BMW, from Mercedes, from Audi. This is one of those sweepers that you can kind of get a little bit of speed on, but again, hard on the brakes here. The whole car just likes to eat up the abuse that you kind of throw it at the track. Oh, hard on the brakes here. Let's turn in. It's so sharp and direct. And then the stability control lets you have a little bit of fun, but remember, this is still a rear drive car, but I appreciate the mechanical limited slip diff. It definitely gives you that additional control with putting the power down. So this is the really sharp turn here where you do have to kind of slow down a little bit more there. Again, I don't have much experience of driving on this track, but I'm just kind of here showing you guys what this car is like. Get up to almost 105 there. That's really impressive. Amazing. This car still puts a huge smile on my face. The chassis just is incredible. Yet the ride quality is still incredibly comfortable out on the road as well. Now, in this mode here, it's kind of like in its firmer setting with the adaptive dampers. You can go into a race mode. But in this mode here in dynamic, the stability control just lets you have a little bit more fun. It kind of lets you get the tail out a little bit more. This is actually the cool down lap now. But I think for those of you who plan to do a little bit of track driving in the Giulia Quadrifoglio, you'll find that it's pretty much ready right out of the box, but it's also good enough to be a daily driver where you can drive it along in this mode and it doesn't beat you up. The seats also, I found, hug me really nicely. They're a little too constricting out on public roads, but on this environment here, you definitely appreciate how they do hold you in place. The sound of the engine's incredible. The steering, the brakes are just so sharp. So yeah, I'm just shocked. I mean, for a car that is now in year 7 of production, Alfa has done a wonderful job with the chassis. What really lets it down, however, is just in the tech. So if you guys are okay with slightly more dated tech interfaces, this is still one of the best driving sports sedans. I kind of wish, however, that Alfa would offer all-wheel drive on the QV. You can't get all-wheel drive, but as long as you guys don't need the all-wheel drive grip, this is truly Italy's answer to the BMW M3. So even though the Alfa Romeo Giulia is starting to get a little bit old in this segment, I have to say Alfa Romeo has done a good job in keeping this vehicle fresh. I would actually dare to say that it's aged very gracefully. I mean, when this car first came out, it was one of the best looking sports sedans out there. And for 2024, Alfa has essentially taken all the styling that we like about the pre-refresh model, and they've updated it with the new headlights, the new taillights, the new fully digital 12.3-inch display. I mean, really, Alfa Romeo, as you guys know, is a very small brand here in America. And in a world full of so many choices out there, it's nice to see Alfa Romeo doing things the Italian way. I mean, I love the fact that they offer such bright and vibrant colors. The Verde Montreal, of course, is a really great choice for around $2,200. The Rosso Red, this is the signature red that Alfa first debuted the car in back in 2017. And as you guys saw on the track, this is still one of the best driving sports sedans out there. It's also one of the best sounding. That Ferrari derived V6 is just music to my ears. While it may not be the quickest option out there because Alfa hasn't added all-wheel drive to the Quadrifoglio model, it's still one of the best driving vehicles out there. And then this one here is Misano Blue. Again, the green, the red, the blue. This is still one of the most standout sports sedans you can find out there, but it is going to cost you a pretty penny because Alfa has been focusing really hard on quality. The company says over the last few years, they've been trying to make the quality in terms of service, in terms of build quality, in terms of the overall quality of the vehicle much higher. And it has reflected in the transaction prices, because if you guys want to get your hands on a Giulia, they are going to start at around $42,000 for the base version with rear-wheel drive. Now, if you guys want the Quadrifoglio models, which as an enthusiast, I still love these vehicles, and I think they're going to become collector's cars in the future because Alfa is moving fully electric by 2027. It's going to cost you at least $80,000 for a Quadrifoglio model. That's right along the same lines of something like the BMW M3. That Verde Montreal color that I was showing you guys earlier, that one there, with the exposed carbon fiber, the driver assistance package, that one had an MSRP of around $87,595, which I know it's a lot of money. I remember when this car first came out, you could buy it in the $70,000 range, but as everything has gotten more expensive, the pricing is also reflecting that in the Giulia. Now, if you're comparing it to an M3, the M3 is going to be around $90,000 to almost $100,000, depending on the options you can get. And then, of course, the BMW offers a few tech features that Alfa doesn't offer on the Giulia. But for those of you who just, favor the ultimate sublime driving experience with the best sounds on a track, the Giulia is definitely still one of the best options out there. But again, just be prepared to pay around $85,000 for the Quadrifoglio model. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.